Our second scripture reading is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 1 through 16. Hear the word of the Lord. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him, and he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. People do not light a lamp and put it under the bushel basket. Rather, they put it on a lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So, has anybody ever been to the Art Institute of Chicago, maybe? Yeah? Okay, I'm seeing a number of hands there. Well, I hope you get a chance to go someday, and I hope that when you go, you will take the time to go down to the lower level and check out something called the Thorne Miniature Rooms. I think I've described these before, but it's been a while, so we'll talk about them again. The Thorne Miniature Rooms are a series of intricate rooms created in the 1930s under the direction of a woman named Narcissa Thorne. She was married to the heir of the Montgomery Ward fortune. There are these tiny little rooms built on a scale of 1 to 12, which give a visual history of interior design. There are 68 of these rooms on display in Chicago, and they show both European and American styles, starting as far back as the 13th century with an English Roman Catholic church in the Gothic style, and going all the way up through a 1940 California hallway. Now, there are medieval rooms, Renaissance rooms, early American rooms, and their beauty and detail must be seen to be believed. Oh my goodness. For example, in a French room from the 1780s, there's a tiny little desk that can be opened and locked with a real tiny little key. And there are tiny little chandeliers and tiny little sets of real china, tiny little real pieces of art on the walls, and even tiny little real oriental rugs on some of the floors. All of these rooms have their own little windows with real drapes and real window coverings. And these rooms are so perfectly displayed and lit that as you look into the room, you can see out their windows into this beautifully realistic landscape beyond. Now, it has been a few years, maybe 8 or 9 years, but I still remember the experience, the feeling of looking into these breathtakingly detailed little rooms and wishing that somehow I could I could get into that imaginary world and walk around in those rooms and then go out the door and explore the landscape outside of them. That's how cool they were. And that is the power that a really, really well-designed exhibit can have. It draws you in and makes you want to get closer. It grabs you and holds your attention, whether it's art or animals at the zoo or the state fair, cars, a car show, even a trade show. It could be anything. But while we're talking about exhibits, today is the fourth part in a 6-part series that the pastors of Trinity, Westminster, and First Pres are offering on the great ends of the church. The great ends of the church are the proclamation of the gospel for the salvation of humankind, which you heard about from K.O. Nunu a few weeks ago. The shelter, nurture, and spiritual fellowship of the children of God, which Meredith Kemp Papan preached on last Sunday. The maintenance of divine worship, the preservation of the truth, which Pat preached on last month. The promotion of social righteousness, and then today's great end, which is the exhibition of the kingdom of heaven to the world. Well, as Meredith shared last week, these great ends matter now more than ever. When we talk about our mission being loving God, loving neighbors, living with purpose, here's the purpose. Here they are, all laid out. And in a time when the Presbyterian Church USA is declining in membership, when people on both sides of the great divide in our country believe they have Jesus on their side, when the ground of our culture seems to be shifting even as we are walking upon it, it matters that we know who we are and why we do what we do. The great ends are another way of reminding us, as Father Richard Rohr likes to say, that our lives are not about us. Rather, we are about life. The great ends connect us with something bigger than ourselves and keep us from turning inward and shriveling down into something dried up and small. The exhibition of the kingdom of heaven to the world clocks in at number 6 because of how it includes all the other great ends. Jesus talked about the kingdom of heaven more than any other topic during his earthly ministry. Number 2 was money. When we who are Christ's body in the world are fully engaged in proclaiming the gospel, sheltering and nurturing the children of God, etc., then we are indeed exhibiting the kingdom of heaven to a world that desperately needs a glimpse of it. Or, as Jesus might put it, we are letting our light shine. Now, I love the language Jesus uses here. He doesn't say, shine your light, but rather, let your light shine. You hear that difference? That's really important because when we hear the great ends of the church all spelled out for us, it's tempting to hear that as do more. Roll up your sleeves, work harder, be better, get busy, do more. And maybe that message energizes and inspires you, and if so, that's great. But there's also a real danger of becoming discouraged and burned out because if hard work and effort translated into success as a church, don't you think that Presbyterians would rule the world by now? When we hear Jesus say, let your light shine, and when we think about the exhibition of the kingdom of heaven to the world, it's less about a checklist of spiritual chores and more about identifying and letting go of the things that block the light from shining. Because as Meredith pointed out last week, sometimes the church has hurt more than it has helped. And sometimes the behavior of people in a church is so ridiculous that instead of shining light, we are spewing these toxic fumes of pollution that cloud it. Letting our light shine is about integrity, aligning our words and actions and our treatment of others with who Jesus was, what he did, what he taught. Integrity clears away the pollution that makes it hard for people to see Christ's light in us. Integrity looks like loving enemies, which we talked about a few weeks ago, giving grace to those who least deserve it, relentlessly seeing the best in others, especially those who we personally find to be a little bit difficult, living simply, extravagantly sharing our resources, making sure the words we speak build up and bless. If you encountered a whole community of people who lived like that, wouldn't that grab and hold your attention? Wouldn't you want to get in there and be part of it? This month we had the first of several all-day strategic planning sessions here at the church. And as it happened, it coincided with the big No Kings protest over at the Capitol. And at 3 p.m., there were thousands of people marching and singing and carrying signs and chanting and having. I feel like my sound is cutting in and out a little bit, so I'm going to take a moment and bend my microphone here. I might just hold my hand here for a little bit. After our planning session was done, and after a little cleanup, I slipped out around 4:30 p.m. and walked over to the Capitol grounds where there were still plenty of protesters milling around and walking down the sidewalk. Not because I wanted to join the protest, because that part was over, but just to get a firsthand glimpse of this larger than usual crowd for a moment. And also to make sure nothing sketchy was going on in the parking lot and nobody was vandalizing church property or anything like that. Now, here at First Presbyterian Church, we have a number of members who were excited to be part of the No Kings protest on Saturday, June 14th. In fact, I have it on good authority that several of them thought the whole church should be out there protesting together. Now, we also have members who would not have gone over there if you had paid them because they see things differently. And in spite of all these differences, we as a church seem to get along pretty well. We seem to love and respect and trust each other most of the time. So without commenting on the content of the protest, I want to share that what captured my attention as an outsider was the energy. It was hot and humid. I don't know if you remember the weather that day. People were red-faced and sweaty, and they were tired, but they were smiling. Grandparents, toddlers, teenagers. Some people carried signs with very vulgar language, but they did not exude rage or hatred. In chatting with some of our First Pres folks who attended, they confirmed for me that one of the things that made the event so energizing was simply being around others who made them feel less alone, less helpless, and less hopeless about some of the things they see happening in the world right now. Now, please do not think, even for a moment, that I am drawing a parallel between the No Kings protest and the kingdom of heaven, because that would not be accurate, and that is not my intent. But I am pointing to the power of community. When church is at its best, we should be at least as energized and filled with hope from hanging out with our church family as we do marching with like-minded strangers at a protest. As the body of Christ in the world, Can we not help people feel less alone, less helpless, less hopeless? Can we not only shine our own light, but help others shine theirs? My prayer for all of us today is that we would begin to see ourselves as light bearers. We already have it. It is not something we need to go out and earn or buy or work hard to get. It is already there. We're carrying Christ's love and light within us right now. What an awesome responsibility and privilege to be part of God's work in the world, showing another way to be, shining light into our community. And we give thanks that we're only a part. It's the facets cut into a diamond that give it the ability to sparkle and reflect light. And thanks be to God, we are just one of them. So may we today exhibit the kingdom of heaven to the world. May the quality of our life together draw people near. May our integrity sparkle. May we let our light shine.